Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you a prototype for a new type of plane that I have invented or come up with. I probably should go out and get a patent for this, and I probably should go into manufacturing the plane on my own, but I run into a couple different issues. The first one being I have zero money when it comes to buying a patent. The second being I have zero experience with manufacturing, so I'd have no idea where to start. And the third is I simply don't have time. I have a YouTube channel, I operate Plane Wellness, and I have a full-time job. So diving into manufacturing, starting to produce this plane is not something that I can really do. I did reach out to Lee Valley Veritas. I sent them an email, but they told me that they don't accept any kind of plane ideas or designs because they don't want to influence their design team. I did have a meeting with Woodpeckers and Blue Spruce, and they decided not to go for the idea, so I figured let's just launch it off to YouTube and see what happens. I do think it would be really cool if there was a manufacturer out there or a plane maker out there that can adapt this style to a metal plane. The prototype that I have is wooden, and a metal plane clearly would be a lot better if it could adapt these different features. Before we dive into looking at the prototype, I just need to talk to you guys about hand planes for a little bit. So in my opinion, hand planes are one of the main centers in a hand tool woodworking shop. They're also used in power tool woodworking as well. So these are very important tools if you're into any kind of woodworking. The problem with them is they're expensive, and you pretty much need to buy multiple planes to get the job done, and you may one day even end up with a number 7. Now, if you're a minimalist, you probably could get away with a number 5 and call it a day, but if you really are into woodworking, chances are you're buying multiple planes, and that gets expensive. It also takes up a lot of space, and this is something that always kind of confused me. We have to buy multiple planes, but all these components in the middle here that actually do the work, they're all the same. If you look at all of the bevel down planes, they're the same. Bevel up planes, it's the same. All the main components in the middle are the same. The other thing that's the same across all planes is they just take shavings. That's their job. If you want to get real picky, we can even look at the totes and say the totes are relatively in the same place across the line of the planes. So what if there was an option for you to only have to buy one plane? It would save you a lot of money. It would also save you a lot of space. The other benefit to it is that when you travel, because I have some friends that are mobile woodworkers, sometimes me personally, I go down to my mom's house and work on projects, you wouldn't have to take all of these planes with you. So let's check out my idea. So what I've come up with is an expandable plane. What do I mean by that? So right now this is a number 4, but what I'm going to add to it are extension wings. Here are the extensions for a number 5. Here are the extensions for a number 7. So to go from 4 to 5, take the extensions, insert them into the plane, and now you have a number 5. Need to go to a number 7, take those extensions out, add the number 7 extensions, and there you go. You have a number 7. The cool thing about these extension wings too is if for whatever reason you don't need the support in the back but you do in the front, these wings can operate independently. So you can really set up whatever kind of support you want, whatever kind of support is comfortable to you. So the idea of the extensions is really you're just extending the body like we had talked about with all of the different hand planes that you have to buy. The main difference is the size of the bed because everything in here, all of the components that do the shavings are the same. But you have to rebuy all of that hardware just to get a longer body. If we can produce an expandable body plane with these extension wings, you'd only have to buy one plane and then get the extension wings. Before you guys start yelling at me, I do want to point out 2 cons to this, which are 2 differences, I guess, from this idea of plane versus standard plane. So the first thing is, I understand that number 4s are meant to take very thin final passes, and number 5s and 7s typically take heavier shavings. So when you do switch to different bed extensions, you will have to adjust the depth of this. I wish there was a way that we could add a lever that says, I went from 4 to 5 and have it all do that for you. I don't think that's possible. The other thing that you might point out is the number 7 size planes traditionally have a 2 3/8 size iron. This would only be a 2-inch iron. For me personally, a number 7 with a 2-inch iron is very appealing. I have a Miller's Falls number 5 1/4, and this is what I use to edge joint because it's narrow and it's easier for me to keep this on a board than it is a wide number 7. But if you start with a base plane of a 4.5, then you could buy the extensions of a 5.5 and the extensions of a 7, and then everything would line up perfectly. In making this plane, one of the main things that would be probably the most difficult for the machinist or the manufacturer is making sure that everything stays flat. So when you do add the number 5 extension and maybe you want the number 7 extension, everything would need to be perfectly flat along the bottom where the plane's not going to perform. So I do understand that that's going to be a challenge. The other thing is I have a couple notes on the prototype that I created. Initially, the idea was that this knob was going to turn and lock down onto this metal plate to hold it in place. I cut that bolt too short. So right now, everything is being held together with magnets. I did want to put a thumb screw in the back, but because of this plane, there is nowhere to put a thumb screw. So that would be, if I'm going to redo this again, that would be the main thing. I was make sure that this is a screw fasten here and a screw fasten in the back, maybe in addition to different magnets. If you want to see exactly how I made this prototype and how I made everything come together, I will have the build video on my Patreon page that goes into detail of all of these different steps. As I mentioned earlier, I did make some mistakes on this prototype, so unfortunately it is not a working prototype, but I would like to rebuild this plane from the ground up, not taking another plane and modifying it, but going from the ground up, building a plane that is specifically dedicated to receiving these extension wings to show you guys how it functions. So keep an eye out for that. That will be a later video. The other thing I want to point out is the number 7 extension does have a knob on the front, because when you look at traditional number 7s, the knob is 3 inches farther out from a number 4 size plane. You could get technical and say the tote is slightly scooted back, and you can do that if you want to. But on that note, I did extensions for a 5 and a 7. You really could do extensions for also a 6 and an 8. If you wanted to get really technical, you could build a number 1 and add extensions for a 2 and a 3. But for anything 5 and above, I don't recommend going lower than a number 4 for the base plane that you would purchase. Mainly just because of the amount of support that those wings would need, especially when you get to the 7 and 8 sizes. The other thing that I think would be really cool if somebody does start manufacturing these planes is a box to store all of these different extensions in. So you'd have all your extensions lined up and you'd have your plane, you'd take that box and there you go. That's all you would need to take if you're a mobile woodworker or if you're a minimalist. And again, it would save a lot of space, it would save a lot of money. So I really do think that this is a viable option, and I really do hope that some manufacturers pick this up and start producing these planes. I guess I'd say if you do, just give credit to Jamie came up with the idea. The reason I didn't wait to launch this video until I had a functioning prototype is simply just because I was too excited. It's also because I know that I'm not going to be able to get a patent and I'm not going to be able to go into manufacturing this plane. So I said, let's just launch it, let's have fun, and see what kind of ideas people come up with. So if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, feel free to let us know down below, and have a good day.